So, James, do you want to help me build some shelving?
Yeah.
Should it be a little shelf or a big shelf?
A gigantic shelf.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because your tummy is.
So we're gonna cut. Are we gonna cut all the wood first?
Yeah.
And then we're gonna connect it together.
Yeah.
And then we get to play with chain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're gonna hang it on the wall, right?
Yeah. First, it's gonna be pulled apart.
Okay.
Smush it.
Yeah, we'll smush it.
Yeah. Then
Yeah.
it looks like this.
Yeah, well, do you think it'll be really strong?
Yeah.
Do you think that you're gonna want to crawl on it to make sure it's strong?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here we go. So I just made this from scraps left over from the shelving project as a movie prop. So what you're looking at is this would be the front of the shelf that you would load your things to store. Then here's kind of a cross section, and you'll notice here I'm even showing. Here's your wall. Here's the drywall, and here's the stud. This is a 2x4 stud, so you can see what's happening behind the wall. Let me explain how this is actually built. So here's how it works. You take a vertical 2x3, and then you lay a 2x3 flat screwed into another flat 2x3. And that is the first part of the frame that we'll build. Then, once you have the basic frame built, the next thing I do is I attach the deck. Then the last thing I do is I attach a 1x3 to the front. So the genius of this shelving, not my design by the way, is that it makes basically a T. So the 2x3 would tend to want to bow by putting 90-degree perpendicular piece. It makes a T, just kind of like the same idea as like a steel I-beam. You know, each different direction reinforces each other. This makes an insanely strong front lip that will never bow, even under immense load. So the last thing I do after I have the decking is I put the lip, and the reason for that is that it's hard to get this to the correct up and down height so that it's flush. Rather than measuring and screwing around, why not just put the decking on and just make it flush? Piece of cake. And that's the basic construction. You can see there's only 3 materials. 1/2-inch plywood, 2x3s, and 1x3s. That's it. It's just how you cut them. Let's talk about screw penetration. I made the other side to kind of show that. So the first thing I always do is attach the 2x3s all to each other. I found that it's easier to do this side first because I can use my nail gun. But what I'm using, whether you use nails or screws, it doesn't matter. You need a 3-inch screw, and the reason for that is that you're going to lose half of a 3-inch screw, 1.5 inches, just getting through what you're screwing through. And the general rule of thumbs with screws is that whatever you're screwing through, you want it double that into the other side. So if I'm screwing through 1.5 inches, I want another 1.5 inches into the wood, hence a 3-inch screw. So when screwing a flat 2x3 here, that's not really the typical way you build things. So it's a 3-inch screw. Like here's a 3. If you tried to do that, look how much you're getting into the wood, like a 1/2 inch. That will not hold. So the way that I built the shelving for the first couple of years to save on money is I just used a 1/2 inch or 3/8 drill bit like this, and I drilled a hole about halfway into the 2x3 to make a giant hole, and then I sunk the 3-inch screw to the bottom of that hole, and that gave me a pretty good bite like this. The problem is you have to buy an extended length driver to get down in that hole, because if you try to use an extender, something that might look like this, you have to drill a giant hole to get something like this even in the hole. You can save money that way. I don't think it really matters. James, I don't want you jumping off the trailer, okay? You can spin, but don't jump on the trailer, okay? Okay. Should we talk about what we're going to do here?
Yeah.
So, here's what we bought. These were 50 cents a piece.
Yeah.
They're 1/4 inch by 4 inch eyebolts. It's got an eye on. You want to see? It's got an eye on that side. You like eyeballs, don't you? It's got an eyeball right here, and then it's got machine thread and a nut. And that's going to sit through the shelf and allow us, when we turn the nut, you want to try turning it? Turn the nut.
Watch this, guys.
Yeah, the nut gives us a fine adjustment, so we can level it finely. Then we're going to hook the chain through that eye, and that's going to go all the way up.
I'm just going this other way.
And that chain's going to go all the way up to this one, screwed into the stud. And the chain.
Yeah, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
You have to twist.
Yeah, I see. Don't take it off. And so we'll hook the chain permanently to the lower eye. And then for a coarse adjustment, I use these quick links. These were, I believe, 90 cents a piece or $1. Make sure when you buy this hardware that it's not stainless steel. because that costs 3 times as much, and inside a garage, no one cares. So this will hook through the chain into this eye and allow us to make course adjustment by changing links. Now, I bought this chain. This is Coil twist chain. Happens to be galvanized. It's 20 feet, capable of 415 pounds. Yep, 415. Yep. And it was $14 for 20 feet. If you don't have a pair of bolt cutters,
this
the store.
Is 14.
And James, did you know if you don't have a bolt cutters, the store will cut it for you for free?
Yeah.
Yeah? You remember seeing them do it?
Yeah.
But it's easier if you just go to Harbor Freight like me and just buy a cheap pair of bolt cutters, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Are we going to show them how to cut chain later?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I'm not going to use that chain in reality because I went to a garage sale this summer and I got about 30 feet of chain that came with a come-along winch for free. So I'm just going to use this chain I have left over.
I saw with chalk.
Mm-hmm.
Watch, guys. This chalk was like.
Yeah.
See? That's how it goes.
That chain will be permanently mounted through this eyebolt. You go at a 45-degree angle up.
Yeah.
This link will go through it like such, and then this will be in the wall like such. There you go. That's the basic system. Did you know when I first built them, James? I used quick links down here too till I forgot that my dad showed me years ago. You just bend these open. So that saves you $1.50. So, yep, that's the hardware. That's all we bought. The only thing we bought was some 4-inch screws. Let me show those.
And this is 2021. This is here.
Yep. So here. Can you hold this screw up? This is a regular construction 3-inch screw. These happen to be outside screws, but I came into a deal on them and I couldn't pass them up. So here is a 3-inch screw. Now hold this one next to it. Yep, hold it up. See how it's an inch longer and it's thicker.
It's longer than this one.
Yeah.
See how it's even longer?
Yeah,
guys?
it's super long.
Yeah, but the other is super small.
Yeah, I use these for screwing through the 2.5-inch thick sideways flat piece when I built the shelving. Plus, I also use these to screw through the back 2x3 through the drywall and into the stud.
And guys, look right here. It's gonna spin. See?
Yep.
How the sun comes out of there?
Yeah. And see, James, with these long screws, you've got about from here to here is the 2x4, then there's the drywall.
Yeah.
So you're embedding about half of this screw into the drywall.
Yeah, and half?
I mean, into the stud. That makes it super strong, right?
And watch this. These are both.
Yeah, those are 3-inchers. So, anyway.
See how it's even longer?
I'll take a couple pictures for our audience.
And this one is bigger than that one.
Yeah.
And that one is even bigger than a smaller one.
So, yeah. So, James.
What?
James.
What?
Do you think that we should take a break? Yeah, these 4-inch screws are made by GRK. Not sponsored by them, but they do make really nice screws. So they were kind of expensive. They cost 20 cents a piece if you buy it in the large 150 count tote, but totally worth it.
Yeah, like it, subscribe.
Yeah, like it and subscribe it. Here's my eyebolt. This is the machine thread one, not the wood screw one, the machine thread. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the chain in the eye without any extra hardware. And the way you do that is just bend the eye open. I showed this in an earlier video where I showed how to do the hanging bikes. The camera quality wasn't very good, so I'm going to show it again here in detail just to help people understand how to do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my chain. So that begs the question, how long of a piece of chain do I need? You can do the Pythagorean theorem squared, bottom squared plus top squared square root. but I've done that and it never works out right with chain. Too many factors. I'm just going to cheat. And this is a 16-inch deep shelf. And usually I set this screw back about 2 inches. And I set this eye down 2 inches. So it's still 14 inch by 14 inch. And I'm just going to measure. So from one eye to the other eye is 18 inches. Just to make sure that I don't cut the chain too short, I'll make it 2 lengths longer. If you don't need them, no big deal. Chain's cheap. Here's my chain. I'll just lay the chain out. There's 18 right here, so I'll go 1, 2. So this is the last link, which means I'm going to cut the next one. This is my trick for cutting chain. Now we're going to separate the chain. There's only 2 ways that I know of to do it. Bolt cutters or like an angle grinder with a cutting wheel. You'll have an awfully hard time holding that still without a vise if you're using something like this. Bolt cutters are dirt cheap. These are Harbor Freight ones. I think I spent $25 on them. I've had these at least 10 years. For doing this, they work great. These ones don't cut all the way through both sides. You got to break one. You cut one side, you flip it around, you cut the other side. You'll know that it cut through. You'll hear a distinct soft pop. There it is. Then you just line up the grooves you just made, flip it over, line the grooves up, and go again. That's all there is to it. Don't forget safety glasses. So if you're making more than one, you can just hang it off a nail and then hook the next end of the chain up and find your link, take it off, and cut it. And just use it as a gauge block, just like I made a gauge block when I was doing the wood. Then you don't have to measure them all. So now I'm going to attach this chain to the eye of the anchor that's going to go on the front lip. That will save me the cost of a $1.50 quick coupler. When I made the original shelving, I bought 2 quick couplers. I totally forgot you could bend the eyes open. I've gotten a little bit smarter about it, and actually it's easier to adjust the height at the back of the shelf up high. So you push the shelf up and then change the linking and then let it fall back down than it is to change it at the front, because the bolt tends to fall through the hole. So it just makes sense. That's why my go-to is those or these giant, massive, flat ones. Let's bend this bad boy open. So now that I got it bent open and you can see it pivoted a little, that's going to happen. This isn't the greatest vise either. That's why it's my cheap garage vise. You take your chain, you stick it in there, take your hammer, pound it back closed. That's all there is to it. Now I'm going to drill my hole in the front lip, insert this through the hole with the open end facing out towards you. So if it ever were to bend open under too much load, which I've never happened, and I've put a lot of weight on the shelving, a lot, it would take longer to bend all the way open and slip off. And you still have other chains supporting. So the load is being split across all the chains, and actually at least half the weight's being directed into the back wall screws. So there's not as much weight as you think on these chains. This chain is a little heavier than what you would really need to use, but I had it for free, so I'm using it. I have the shelf wood part complete. Now I need to figure out how it's going to attach to the wall. What I've done is I used my stud sensor and I went starting here all the way down and marked the stud location to get a feel for where the studs lie in relation to the shelf. I already know from experience that you want a support chain every 3 to 5 feet. This is 115 inches long, which is 10 feet long. I could get away with 2 chains, but I decided to go with 3. Here's my first stud. This is kind of an unusable gap at the end. Get something small on there. So I put one right on the end. This one here should be on this stud here, right here. But when I slide this plow blade in, it's going to interfere, so I moved it back one. So I put one here. The gap from here to there is more than 5 feet, so I got to have a third one. So I just put one here. Could have been this stud or it could have been this stud. I just arbitrarily picked this one. So once I got those three figured out where they're going to go in terms of left to right spacing, I measured down 16 inches and put a screw in. Later on when we flip the shelf up, that'll be the set screw for the height in the center of the shelf. I then measured up 14 inches and that's where I placed that. I also used my level to draw a parallel line out to here and on the other side and measured up 14 inches and put two more. So they're roughly in the same height with a level. Then I just used my tape measure and I measured 9.5 inches, 57.5, and 89.5. So that's the three numbers from that edge to 1, 2, and 3 locations, and I transferred them over here, and I'll show you how I did that. Now that I know my spacing of my 3 support chains, I'm going to transfer those to the locations where I'm going to drill holes to install the eye loops up here. So I took those same 3 measurements and I marked them twice. 9.5 here will be a hole up here, and then there'll also be a hole at 9.5 back here for the screw on the back half that goes into the stud. And these eye bolts for the front lip support. So I did 9.5 front and back, 85.5 here. Sorry, 57.5 here and back, and again I did 89.5 here, but I actually want the third stud screw to be as far out as possible, and the reason for that is the way I've learned to attach these is you put the middle screw in, you attach all 3 chains, then you swing it up and you attach the middle screw. That sets the height. That's what will be pivoting up against this. Once we're done, we'll take the screw out. This just sets the height, but the shelf can be out of level left to right. So once we have this screw in, it's not going anywhere, but it's not strong. Then I put a long framing level like this. Here's a cheap one. Just has a flat bubble. Here's a really nice one that has curved level bubbles that give you a much more accurate reading. This is the one I'll be using. We'll put a level on each end, and I'll have Amy lift or raise or lower the end until it's perfectly level, and then I'll shoot the screw in on the furthest out stud. Then I'll repeat the process and level that side. And that gets left to right level all the way across the shelf. Some of you may have picked up this shelf is out of level. It's because it's the first one I ever hung, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was making it up as I went along. This one will be perfectly level. I just never re-leveled it because who cares? So once we get it hung and level left to right, then we'll level front to back, like this level. And the way you do that is for a large adjustment, you can add or remove a link with the quick link. Once you get it close, then you can dial up the nut underneath the shelf on the eye that goes through here to fine tune. And you'll see that again when we install it. So now I'm going to cut my chain and attach them to the eyebolt and insert them in the locations where they're going to be. And then I'm ready to hang. So I'll have to get Amy back out here. With the shelf upside down, I can now drill the pilot holes for the 3 screws that will set the level of the shelf. That's what we'll use to hang it initially. When I mark the locations for these eyes for the chains, I put a tick mark at the front for that hole, and I put one on the back of this piece of wood right here. So now I'm ready to put up my shelf. I've already put a mark here where this back part will touch the wall. That lines up exactly where my stud, in the middle of the stud needs to be. That's where my middle screw is. I've come over here with a stud finder. This is just to set the height. I'm going to pivot up into that. I need to know where that tick mark lines up left to right so that all my other screws, the other 2 leveling screws, and all the other ones I'm going to put in will actually hit a stud in the middle. So I put an alignment mark here that tick mark will line up. So I'll pivot up, slide it left to right, and shoot 1 screw in, and that'll keep it from falling down. So now comes the fun part. I told my wife that she had to help me put this up when she got home with the kids. What she doesn't know is that I tricked her, and I'm going to put it up on the wall and have it done before she gets home. Then she'll come home and wonder how the hell I did it. I do it often, and she never does know. This time she'll actually know because she'll be editing the video. It's not that hard. I'm cheating because I can set it on top of these here. Let's get to it. And I have attached my quick links to the ends of the chains before I do this. Even though this thing is 12 feet long, it's easy to pick up. It's not that heavy. Okay, now it's safe. Safe enough to level. Now remember, when you put a level on, don't put it here because this is the part that's not moving. You want it all the way to the end. The longer the level, the better of a reading you get. Also, don't put it here. We're trying to level the back. So, take your level, bring it mostly out to the edge. Something like that. I can see I need to go up just a hair. So let's do that. And the fact that my ratchet popped, or if you're using a drill, you'll feel the resistance change when you get close to the end of the screw, means you're in a stud. Also, I've learned when I set the level on the front to back, I make it slightly higher, so it's pitched ever so slightly back. Again, to keep round things from rolling off accidentally. So I know I need to take 4 links out of this chain right off the bat. So I'm just going to do that right there. Also, now that I know that the chains are the correct length, you can go ahead and screw the quick link shut as you do the leveling. So here, I can see I'm out of level. Now you could use an impact gun on this, but I find they're too fast. I always do it with a drill, and I set it to low speed. And I just put it on the nut, and I just slowly crank. And I just watch the level. Perfect. And if you build the shelving right, it should be pretty rigid out the door. Now that I have my shelf attached up high, links are closed, levels set left to right, levels set front to back, slightly higher than level. Now I'm going to come along here and mark my studs for the missing spots and shoot more 4-inch screws. Okay, so now I'm just going to mark my other stud locations. I can't really see the hash marks I put up earlier, so since I'm doing it one-handed, I just do a very small mark. That's my rough center, or rough mark. And then I watch the lights in relation to the hash marks and decide if it's on center or not. And that one is. Done and done. Now you'll see there might be a little bit of slop in some of these chains. As soon as we start putting weight on this thing, that'll be gone. You'll notice too, this is a 24-inch deep one. This is a 16. The reason is because I have a large conversion van that has to fit in here too. So I already parked the van as tight to this wall as I ever do. And then I measured from the edge of the van to the wall, and I determined I can get a 16 in here. The other part of this project that I'm personally doing is I'm building more shelves against the back wall of the garage. There's really no need to show that in great detail because it's built the same technique. I just changed the size. I'll shoot a second video showing a little bit of that construction and then some discussion on how when you build shelves yourself, it's about the same price as if you bought a freestanding metal one, but you get the flexibility to do things that store-bought items can't. As you've seen earlier in the garage, one of my previous videos, I cut a workbench around the silhouette of where my trailer sits folded up. That bought me 2 extra feet of space for a bench grinder and a little extra bench space. On the back wall, I'm going to do a cutout for the trailer hitch ramp.
Subscribe.
Yeah, and watch more.
Yeah. And watch more of my videos.
Yeah.
Just search for my name.
Yeah. What's the channel called, James?
Search for the wood shelf.
The wood shelf. Yeah, and who makes it?
Dad.
Dad, and what's my YouTube channel called? Is it Armed and Dangerous DIY?
Armed and Dangerous DIY.
Yeah.
And then if you like it, subscribe.
Yeah.